The void sang with electronic whispers, but Captain Maeva Corinthios heard only the hollow echo of humanity's absence. 300 years had passed since the last transmission from Seoul, 3 centuries since the Great Silence began. The night falls. Edge drifted through the Kepler confluence, its sensors sweeping the cosmic graveyard where human colonies once thrived. "Still nothing, Captain," reported navigator Brix Valdane, his cybernetic eye flickering with data streams. "The Proxima settlements, they're gone, not destroyed, gone, like they never existed." Maeva's fingers traced the worn insignia on her command chair, the last eagle of Terra, wings spread against the stars. The Terran Exodus fleet had been humanity's final gambit, 1,000 ships carrying the species beyond the reach of the hegemony's cleansing protocols. But even exile had its limits. "The BlackHFY databases confirm it," added Chief Analyst Nix Peregrine, her voice carrying the weight of certainty. "Humanity was declared extinct 47 years ago. The Galactic Council erected memorial beacons in Seoul system, a monument to a primitive species that reached too far." The bridge fell silent except for the ship's mechanical breathing. Maeva rose from her chair, her boots silent on the deck plating. Through the viewport, nebulae swirled like cosmic storms, beautiful and indifferent to the tragedy of an entire species supposedly wiped from existence. "Ma'am," came a hesitant voice from Communications Officer Zahn Blackwater. "We're receiving a priority signal from the Fleet Admiral. Operation Lazarus it's beginning." Maeva's blood chilled. Operation Lazarus, the contingency plan that was never supposed to happen. The last protocol in a series of last protocols. She had hoped, even after 3 centuries of silence, that it would never come to this. "Patch it through," she commanded. The holographic display shimmered to life, revealing Fleet Admiral Kestra Voss, her silver hair stark against the command deck of the Resurrection. The woman who had guided humanity through its darkest exodus now bore the weight of something far heavier. "My fellow humans," Voss began, her voice carrying across the scattered remnants of the Exodus fleet. "We have confirmed what we feared. The hegemony's genocide was thorough. 30 billion souls, gone. Our homeworld, our colonies, our very history has been erased from galactic memory." The transmission flickered, and for a moment Maeva could see the pain in the Admiral's eyes, the same pain that lived in every human survivor's heart. "The Galactic Council believes we are extinct. They have divided our territories, sold our worlds, and forgotten our names. But they have made one critical error in their calculations." Voss paused, her expression hardening into something that belonged on the face of humanity's ancestors, the conquerors of Earth's ancient battlefields. "They have mistaken our silence for death." The image shifted, revealing the vast construction bay of the Resurrection. There, suspended in the void, like a dark prophecy, hung the largest ship ever built by human hands. 10 kilometers of midnight black hull, its surface drinking in starlight and reflecting nothing back. No weapons were visible on its surface. No turrets, no missile arrays, no particle beam emitters. It was smooth, organic, beautiful in its simplicity. "The black ship is not a weapon," Voss continued. "It is a message, a declaration, a reminder to the universe that humanity does not surrender, does not fade quietly into cosmic dust. We are here. We have always been here, and we are coming home." Deep within the construction bay of the Resurrection, Chief Engineer Thane Stellaris stood before his life's work. The black ship hung before him like a sleeping god, its hull complete, but its soul still taking shape. For 7 years he had poured his brilliance into this vessel, but more than that, he had poured his hope. "The quantum resonance chambers are online," reported his assistant, Vera Asterian, her voice tinged with exhaustion. They had been working for 18 hours straight, but sleep was a luxury they could no longer afford. The message protocols are ready for final integration. Thane nodded, his weathered hands interfacing with the control systems. The black ship was his design, his dream made manifest. But it was also humanity's last poem, written in metal and energy, prepared to be sung across the galaxy. "Show me the transmission array," he commanded. The holographic display revealed the ship's most crucial component, a massive quantum broadcaster built into its core. Unlike traditional communication systems, this device would not simply send a message across space. It would burn that message into the fabric of reality itself, ensuring it could never be silenced or ignored. "It's beautiful," Vera whispered, "and terrible." She was right. The black ship possessed no weapons, but it carried something far more dangerous: the truth. For 3 centuries, the Galactic Council had maintained the lie that humanity was extinct. They had sealed the records, forbidden mention of the genocide, and built their new order on the foundation of human graves. The black ship would shatter that illusion. "Admiral on deck!" called out a technician. Thane turned to see Kestra Voss approaching, her measured steps echoing in the vast chamber. Behind her walked the other members of the Exodus Command, the last leaders of a species that refused to die. "Report, Chief Engineer," Voss commanded. "The black ship is ready for its maiden voyage," Thane replied. "The quantum broadcaster will activate the moment we enter the outer rim of the galaxy's communication network. Every inhabited world, every council station, every ship with a receiver will hear our message simultaneously." "And then?" asked Commander Rylan Novak, the youngest member of the Exodus Command. "What happens when they know we're still alive?" Voss's smile was sharp as a blade. "Then we remind them why they feared us in the first place." The Admiral approached the black ship's hull, placing her hand against its surface. The material was warm to the touch, as if it were alive. In a way, it was. The ship's quantum core pulsed with the collective memory of humanity, every story, every song, every moment of joy and sorrow that had ever defined their species. The hegemony believed they could erase us by destroying our bodies, Voss said softly. They never understood that humanity's true strength was never in our numbers or our weapons. It was in our refusal to be forgotten. She turned to address the assembled engineers and technicians. "You have built more than a ship. You have built a resurrection. When the black ship completes its journey, every being in the galaxy will know that humanity endures. They will know that we have not forgotten the 30 billion souls they murdered. And they will know that we are coming home." The chamber erupted in quiet determination. These were the last humans, the final remnant of a species that had once dreamed of touching the stars. But they were not the end of humanity's story. They were its new beginning. "Launch preparations begin at dawn," Voss announced. "The black ship departs in 3 days. May the galaxy remember why they once trembled at the mention of Terra." As the Admiral departed, Thane remained beside his creation. The black ship waited patiently, a dark messenger carrying the weight of an entire species' defiance. Soon, it would carry that message to the stars, and the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest weapon was not destruction, but the simple, terrifying truth. They were not alone, and they were not forgotten. In the depths of space, the exile fleet prepared for its final gambit. The black ship would fly, and with it, humanity's declaration that extinction was a choice, and they chose to live. The black ship's hull shimmered with quantum fire as it detached from the Resurrection's construction bay. Captain Lyra Quantum Walker stood on the bridge of her vessel, watching through the viewport as humanity's greatest gamble began its journey into the unknown. She was alone aboard the black ship, not by necessity, but by choice. The ship's AI systems could handle navigation and maintenance, but this voyage required a human consciousness to guide it, someone who could speak for their species when the moment came. "Quantum drive online," announced the ship's AI, its voice carrying the collected wisdom of human civilization. They had named it Prometheus, after the mythical figure who stole fire from the gods. Estimated arrival at Nexus Point? 14 days. Lyra nodded, her hands steady on the controls despite the magnitude of her mission. The Nexus Point was the galaxy's primary communication hub, a massive relay station that connected every civilized world. From there, the Black Ship's message would reach every corner of known space simultaneously. "Prometheus, begin recording," she commanded. "Recording initiated, Captain." Lyra took a deep breath, knowing that her words would soon echo across the galaxy. "This is Captain Lyra Quantum Walker of the Terran vessel Remembrance. I am broadcasting this message to every sentient being in the galaxy, to every world that has forgotten our name, to every council member who voted for our extinction." She paused, looking out at the stars that had once been humanity's playground. 300 years ago, you declared us extinct. You erased our colonies, seized our worlds, and divided our territories among yourselves. You built monuments to our memory and told yourselves that justice had been served. You were wrong. The Black Ship's hull pulsed with energy as it entered hyperspace, its quantum signature invisible to conventional sensors. The vessel moved like a ghost through the cosmic void, carrying its message toward the heart of galactic civilization. "We are the Terran Exodus fleet," Lyra continued. "We are the survivors of your genocide, the witnesses to your crimes. For 3 centuries, we have watched from the shadows as you built your new order on the foundation of our graves. No more." The ship's sensors detected the first signs of the galactic communication network, distant transmissions carrying the mundane business of a civilization that believed itself secure. Soon, those same channels would carry humanity's return from the dead. "Prometheus, how long until we reach the first relay station?" 47 hours, Captain. The hegemony cruiser Dominion's Edge is patrolling the sector, but they will not detect us unless we choose to reveal ourselves." Lyra smiled grimly. The hegemony, the same species that had orchestrated humanity's genocide. They had convinced the Galactic Council that humans were a threat to galactic peace, a plague that needed to be eliminated. Their reward had been Sol. System itself, humanity's birthright transformed into their newest colony. "Continue recording, Prometheus." Recording resumed. "To the hegemony commanders who patrol our former territories, you sleep in beds made from our ashes. You walk on worlds watered with our blood. You have grown fat and complacent, believing yourselves the inheritors of human space. But you have made one critical error. You have forgotten that humans do not surrender. We adapt, we endure, we return." The Black Ship's quantum core hummed with increasing intensity as they approached the outer rim of the galactic network. Soon, every receiver in known space would hear Lyra's words, and the galaxy would learn that humanity's story was far from over. "This ship carries no weapons," she continued. "It needs none. The message it bears is more dangerous than any fleet, more destructive than any superweapon. It carries the truth. Humanity endures. We have not forgotten the 30 billion souls you murdered. We have not forgiven the lies you told to justify our extinction. And we will not rest until every human world is free." A proximity alarm chimed softly. The first relay station appeared on the sensors, a massive structure bristling with communication arrays. From here, the Black Ship's message would spread across the galaxy at the speed of thought. "Prometheus, prepare for quantum transmission. Full spectrum broadcast. All frequencies, all languages." "Acknowledged, Captain. Quantum broadcaster charging to full power." Lyra watched as the relay station grew larger in the viewport. In moments, the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology or firepower, but something far more terrifying: the refusal to be forgotten. "To every human who might hear this message," she said softly, "know that you are not alone. We are coming home." The Black Ship's hull blazed with quantum fire as it approached its destiny. The quantum transmission erupted from the black ship like a supernova of information, washing over the galaxy's communication networks in a cascade of impossible data. On 10,000 worlds, receivers suddenly blazed with signals they had never been designed to detect. In the depths of space, navigation buoys began broadcasting messages in a dead language. Even the most secure military channels found themselves carrying the voice of humanity's return. On the hegemony homeworld of Vex Thara, Supreme Chancellor Mordak Ironbane stood frozen in his council chamber as the transmission flooded their networks. The ancient alien scales shifted from their usual crimson to a pale, sickly white as he listened to words that should have been impossible. "Impossible," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the din of panicking council members. "The humans are extinct. We confirmed their extinction ourselves, but the evidence was undeniable." Every screen in the chamber now displayed the same image, a sleek black vessel moving through space like a living shadow. No weapons, no threats, just the simple, terrifying presence of a species that had refused to die. "Chancellor," called his aide, "Communications Director Kelthar Voidwhisper. The message is broadcasting on all frequencies. Every world in the galaxy is receiving it simultaneously. Our jamming protocols are useless. The signal is being carried by quantum entanglement itself." Mordak's claws scraped against his command. Throne. The hegemony had spent centuries building their empire on the ashes of human civilization. They had told themselves that genocide was necessary, that humanity's aggressive expansion threatened galactic peace. But the truth was simpler and more damning. They had been afraid of human ingenuity, human determination, human refusal to accept limitations. "Get me the Galactic Council," he commanded. "Emergency session. Now." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on 1,000 worlds. The Zephyrian Trade Consortium watched in horror as their carefully managed information networks blazed with impossible transmissions. The ethereal collective felt their hive mind consciousness recoil from the psychic echo of humanity's defiance. Even the ancient void speakers, who had remained neutral during the human genocide, found their crystalline communication matrices resonating with the black ship's message. In the Nexus Point's primary control center, Administrator Yixal Starweaver stared at the readings with mounting dread. The quantum signature was unlike anything in their databases. It was as if the very fabric of space-time was being used as a broadcast medium. "How is this possible?" she demanded of her technical staff. "How can a single ship override our entire network?" Chief Technician Rothan Datastream's tentacles writhed with anxiety. "The signal isn't coming from their ship, Administrator. It's coming from everywhere. They've somehow encoded their message into the quantum substrate itself. Every atom in the galaxy is resonating with their transmission." The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just survived their supposed extinction, they had evolved beyond the technological understanding of every other species in the galaxy. The black ship represented not just a return, but an ascension. On the bridge of the black ship, Captain Lyra Quantum Walker watched the galaxy's reaction with grim satisfaction. Her sensors showed the chaos spreading across civilized space, military fleets being scrambled, emergency sessions being called, ancient treaties being reviewed in panicked desperation. Prometheus, status report on the transmission. "The message has reached 99.7% of inhabited systems," the AI reported. "Estimated total recipients, 2.4 trillion sentient beings. The quantum echo is propagating beyond our target parameters. The signal is now spreading to previously uncharted regions of the galaxy." Lyra nodded. Better than they had hoped. Not only was the message reaching every known civilization, but it was also finding isolated colonies and forgotten worlds. Any human survivors who might still exist in the galaxy's remote corners would know they were not alone. "Incoming transmission from the Exodus fleet," Prometheus announced. The holographic display shimmered to life, revealing Admiral Kestra Voss aboard the Resurrection. The older woman's expression was one of fierce pride mixed with concern. Lyra, the galaxy is in chaos. Every major power is mobilizing their fleets. The hegemony has declared a state of emergency and is demanding an immediate council session. Let them panic, Lyra replied. Fear is the first step toward understanding. They need to remember what they did to us before they can comprehend what we've become. And if they choose to fight? Lyra's smile was sharp as winter starlight. Then they'll learn that humanity's greatest strength was never our weapons, Admiral. It was our memory. We remember every world they stole, every life they took, every lie they told, and we're going to make sure the galaxy never forgets again. The Black Ship continued its voyage through the cosmic dark, carrying humanity's declaration to the stars. Behind it, the galaxy awakened to a new reality. The extinction of humanity had been the greatest lie ever told, and the truth was coming. Home. The Grand Assembly of the Galactic Council had not witnessed such chaos in 3 millennia. Representatives from 1,000 worlds crowded into the crystalline amphitheater, their voices creating a cacophony of fear, anger, and desperate confusion. The Black Ship's transmission had reached every corner of the galaxy, and now the carefully constructed order of galactic civilization trembled on the edge of collapse. At the center of the amphitheater, the Council's ancient AI moderator, designated as the Arbiter, struggled to maintain order. Its holographic form flickered with the strain of processing the emotional chaos emanating from the assembled delegates. The emergency session will come to order, the Arbiter announced, its voice carrying the authority of 10,000 years of galactic law. We are here to address the unprecedented transmission received galaxy-wide 7 hours ago, Supreme Chancellor. Mordak Ironbane of the Hegemony rose from his delegation's platform, his scales now a deep purple that signified extreme agitation. Honored delegates, what we have witnessed is impossible. The humans were declared extinct by this very council 3 centuries ago. We have documentation, evidence, witness testimony, lies. The interruption came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Zixandra Truthseer of the Ethereal Collective. The telepathic being's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. Our hive mind touched the edges of their transmission. We felt the psychic resonance of billions of human souls. They are not dead. They never were. A shocked silence fell over the assembly. The Ethereal Collective's testimony carried special weight. Their telepathic abilities made deception impossible for them to ignore. If they claimed to sense human consciousness, then humanity truly did survive. The question is not whether they live, said Elder Quantum Thess of the Void Speakers, her ancient voice carrying across the chamber. The question is what they have become. That transmission, it was not sent by any technology we understand. They have transcended our knowledge. High Magistrate Nulvex of the Zephyrian Trade Consortium activated his platform's speakers. My delegates have reviewed the quantum signature of their message. It's encoded in the fundamental structure of space-time itself. To achieve such a thing would require technology beyond our current understanding of physics. Mordak's voice rose to a roar. It doesn't matter what they've become. They were declared extinct by the lawful authority of this council. The human territories were legally redistributed among the member species. We cannot simply, cannot what? The new voice belonged to Archon Veltara Starborn of the Celestial Hegemony, a species that had remained neutral during the human genocide. Cannot acknowledge that we based our entire post-human order on a lie. Cannot admit that we allowed genocide to occur because we were afraid of human expansion. The chamber erupted in chaos. Accusations flew between delegations as 3 centuries of suppressed guilt and fear finally found their voice. The humans had been eliminated not because they were truly a threat, but because they represented something the other species couldn't understand, a people who refused to accept the limitations the galaxy imposed upon them. Order, the Arbiter commanded, its voice amplified to painful levels. "We will address the immediate concerns first. The Black Ship's transmission contained a specific message. It is requesting formal recognition of the Terran Exodus fleet as the legitimate government of humanity. They are claiming sovereignty over their former territories." "Absolutely not," Mordak snarled. "Those territories belong to the hegemony. Now! We've spent 3 centuries developing them, building colonies, establishing trade routes. We will not surrender them to ghosts." "Ghosts?" Zixandra's telepathic voice carried a note of ominous warning. "These ghosts have technology that makes our most advanced systems look primitive. They could have destroyed every ship in the galaxy with their quantum transmission, but they chose not to. They sent a message instead of a weapon." "What does that tell you about their intentions?" Elder Quantum Thess rose from her platform, her ancient form radiating wisdom and fear in equal measure. "It tells us that they are no longer the species we once knew. The humans who left our space 3 centuries ago were driven by conquest and expansion. These humans, they have evolved beyond our understanding. They have become something new. Something dangerous," Mordak insisted. "Or something we desperately need," countered Archon Veltara. "Our civilization has stagnated for centuries. We've become complacent, corrupt, satisfied with our carefully divided territories and ancient prejudices. Perhaps humanity's return is exactly what the galaxy needs, a reminder that growth and progress are still possible." The Arbiter processed the debate with growing concern. Its vast computational matrix was designed to handle galactic governance, but the return of humanity had introduced variables that defied all previous models. The human extinction had been a foundational event in galactic history. To learn it was false changed everything. "The immediate question," the Arbiter announced, "is how to respond to their message. The Black Ship is still broadcasting, maintaining its quantum transmission. They are clearly waiting for our reply." "Let them wait," Mordak growled. "We owe them nothing." But even as he spoke, the hegemony leader knew the situation had already moved beyond his control. The Black Ship's message had done more than announce humanity's survival. It had shattered the carefully maintained order of galactic civilization. The other species were already beginning to question the justifications for the human genocide, to examine their own roles in the atrocity. "They're not asking for war," Zixandra observed, her telepathic abilities allowing her to perceive the deeper currents of emotion flowing through the chamber. "They're asking for acknowledgement, for the galaxy to admit what it did to them." "And if we refuse?" asked someone from the assembled delegates. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The Black Ship had demonstrated technology beyond galactic understanding. If humanity chose to enforce their demands rather than simply make them, who could stop them? "Then," said Elder Quantum Thess quietly, "we discover what humanity has become in the darkness between the stars. And I fear we may not survive the lesson." The Black Ship's hull pulsed with a deeper resonance as it entered the Sol system, humanity's ancient birthplace. Captain Lyra Quantum Walker stood transfixed at the viewport, her eyes taking in the sight of worlds that had been stolen from her people 3 centuries ago. Earth, renamed Vexathera Prime by the hegemony, now bore the scars of alien occupation. The blue-green world of humanity's origin was overlaid with the geometric patterns of hegemony cities, vast metal constructs that ignored the natural beauty of the landscape. The moon had been converted into a military installation, its surface bristling with weapons designed to prevent any human return. "Prometheus, scan the system. How many hegemony vessels?" "Detecting 347 military vessels, Captain. The Third Fleet of the hegemony Grand Armada has been positioned in defensive formations around the major planets. They appear to be expecting conflict." Lyra's expression remained calm despite the rage burning in her chest. They had turned humanity's birth world into a fortress, as if the very idea of human return was a threat to be repelled with violence. "Open a channel to the hegemony fleet," she commanded. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the angular features of Fleet Commander Zerthak Battleheart aboard the dreadnought Dominion's Fist. The hegemony officer's scales were a deep crimson, signifying battle readiness and barely contained aggression. Unknown vessel, Zerthak's voice carried the authority of 3 centuries of galactic dominance. You are trespassing in sovereign hegemony space. Identify yourself and state your business. I am Captain Lyra Quantum Walker of the Terran vessel Remembrance, she replied, her voice carrying across the void with perfect clarity. I am a human being, representative of the Terran Exodus fleet, and I am coming home. The hegemony commanders. Expression shifted from arrogance to shock, then to a desperate kind of denial. Impossible. The humans are extinct. This is some kind of elaborate deception. No deception, Commander. We are exactly what we appear to be. The children of Earth, returning to reclaim what was stolen from us. Lyra's voice carried the weight of 3 centuries of exile, of loss, of determination that had never wavered. You have made yourselves comfortable in our homes, but your tenancy is at an end. Zerthak's claws scraped against his command throne. This system belongs to the hegemony, by right of conquest and legal council decree. We will not surrender it to phantoms and memories. Legal decree? Lyra's laugh was sharp as shattered glass. Your legal decree was based on the lie that we were extinct. But we're not extinct, Commander. We're here. We're real. And we remember everything you took from us. The hegemony fleet began to move, their ships taking aggressive positions around. The Black Ship. Weapons systems powered up, shields activated, and targeting arrays locked onto the solitary human vessel. 347 warships against 1 ship that carried no visible weapons. Prometheus. Are you detecting any response from the Exodus fleet? Negative, Captain. Admiral Voss is maintaining position at the edge of the system as planned. We proceed alone. It was humanity's way, to face the galaxy's judgment with courage, rather than overwhelming force. The Black Ship could have been accompanied by the entire Exodus fleet, but that would have been seen as an invasion. Instead, Lyra came alone, carrying nothing but the truth of humanity's survival. Commander Zerthak, she said, her voice carrying across the void with perfect clarity. I want you to understand something. This ship carries no weapons because it needs none. What I carry is far more dangerous than any fleet. I carry the memory of what you did to us. The galaxy knows now. They've heard our message. They know that the human extinction was a lie, and they're questioning everything else you told them. The hegemony commander's scales had shifted to a pale, sickly color. We acted on the authority of the Galactic Council. The decision to eliminate humanity was made by the galaxy's lawful government. The decision to commit genocide, Lyra corrected. 30 billion souls, Commander. 30 billion human lives ended because you feared our expansion, our refusal to accept the limitations you imposed on us. But you made one critical error. You didn't kill all of us. Some of us escaped. Some of us survived. And we've spent 3 centuries learning what we truly are. The Black Ship's hull began to pulse, with a deeper resonance, its quantum core responding to Lyra's emotional state. The ship itself was a manifestation of humanity's evolution, no longer just a tool, but an extension of human consciousness itself. Observe, Lyra commanded. The Black Ship's form began to shift, its hull flowing like liquid metal. What had appeared to be a single vessel suddenly revealed itself as something far more complex, a living manifestation of human thought and will. The ship didn't just carry a human crew. It was an expression of humanity itself, technology elevated to the level of art, science transformed into poetry. This is what you tried to destroy, Lyra said softly. Not just our bodies, not just our worlds, but our potential. The potential to become something more than any species in the galaxy had ever imagined. You failed, Commander, We became that potential. We became the future you feared. The hegemony fleet held its position, but Lyra could see the uncertainty in their formations. They had expected to face the same humans who had fled the galaxy 3 centuries ago, aggressive, technologically advanced, but ultimately comprehensible. Instead, they faced something that transcended their understanding of what life could become. "What do you want?" Zerthak's voice carried the weight of defeat, though the battle had not yet begun. "Justice," Lyra replied. "Acknowledgement. The return of what was stolen from us, and most importantly, the assurance that what happened to humanity will never happen to another species again." The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, suspended between the fear of the past and the hope of the future. The Galactic Council chamber had never witnessed such a moment. Every delegate sat in perfect silence as the Black Ship's final transmission reached its conclusion. The holographic display showed Captain Lyra Quantum Walker standing alone on the bridge of her impossible vessel, surrounded by the might of the hegemony fleet, yet somehow more powerful than all of them combined. "The choice is yours," her voice carried across the galaxy with quantum-enhanced clarity. "You can continue to live in the comfortable lie of our extinction, or you can face the truth of what you've become. You can cling to the territories you stole from our graves, or you can begin the long journey toward justice. But understand this: humanity has returned not as conquerors, but as witnesses. We are the living proof of your greatest crime, and the galaxy will never forget again." The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in a silence that stretched across the stars. For long moments, the only sound was the soft humming of the ancient machinery that maintained the station's atmosphere. Then slowly, voices began to rise. "She's right," whispered Ambassador Threnody Spiresong of the Harmonic Collective, her crystalline form resonating with previously unheard frequencies. "We've built our entire civilization on the foundation of genocide. How can we claim to be civilized when we murdered an entire species?" Supreme Chancellor Mordak Ironbane remained silent, his scaled form rigid with suppressed fury. The hegemony had gained the most from humanity's destruction, and now they stood to lose everything. But even he could not deny the truth of what they had done. "The question," said Elder Quantum Thess, her ancient voice carrying the weight of millennia, "is not whether we can undo our crime. The question is whether we can become worthy of forgiveness." In the Sol system, the standoff continued. The hegemony fleet maintained their positions, weapons trained on the Black Ship, but no one moved to fire. How could they? The vessel before them was not just a ship. It was a living testament to human resilience, a manifestation of everything they had tried to destroy. "Commander Zerthak," Lyra's voice carried a note of unexpected compassion, "I want you to know that I don't hate you. Not you personally, not your crews, not even your entire species. What I feel is sadness. Sadness for what you've become, what you've allowed yourselves to become. You were once explorers, artists, dreamers. The hegemony that first reached the stars was driven by wonder, not conquest. What happened to that species?" The hegemony commander's voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. We became afraid. Afraid of being left behind, of becoming irrelevant. When we saw what humanity was becoming, we convinced ourselves that there wasn't room in the galaxy for both of us." "There's always room for growth," Lyra replied. "There's always room for evolution. That's what humanity learned in our exile, not just how to survive, but how to become more than we were. We could have returned as conquerors, could have used our new technologies to exact revenge for the 30 billion souls you murdered. But we chose a different path." The Black Ship's hull shimmered, and suddenly the space around it filled with light. Not the harsh glare of weapons, but something softer, more beautiful. The quantum fields surrounding the vessel began to resonate with the fundamental frequencies of space-time itself. creating a harmony that every sensor in the system could detect. "This is our gift to the galaxy," Lyra announced. "Not conquest, not revenge, but music. The music of existence itself, the song that plays in the quantum substrate of reality. We learned to hear it in our exile, learned to dance to its rhythm. We can teach you to hear it too." On worlds across the galaxy, beings stopped what they were doing to listen. The Black Ship's transmission was no longer just words. It was a symphony of pure information, a song of possibilities that spoke directly to the consciousness of every sentient being in range. "You see," Lyra continued, "the greatest tragedy of our extinction wasn't the loss of human life, it was the loss of human potential. We were becoming something new, something that could have lifted all of galactic civilization to heights you never imagined. You cut short that evolution, but you didn't stop it. You only delayed it. The hegemony fleet began to power down their weapons. One by one, the great warships that had been prepared to defend stolen territory found themselves unable to maintain their aggression in the face of such beauty. The Black Ship's song spoke to something deeper than fear or anger. It spoke to the dream that had first driven their species to the stars. "Admiral Voss to all vessels," came the transmission from the edge of the system. The Exodus fleet had been waiting, watching, ready to defend their emissary if necessary. But now the Admiral's voice carried something different, not the steel of military command, but the warmth of hope realized. "Stand down. All ships, stand down. The galaxy is listening." Across the Sol system, the impossible happened. The hegemony fleet began to withdraw from their defensive positions, not in retreat, but in something approaching reverence. The Black Ship's song had awakened something in them that had been sleeping for centuries, the memory of who they had been before fear transformed them into killers. Commander Zerthak's voice crackled across the comm channels, thick with emotion. "Human vessel, remembrance, we remember now. We remember what we were before we became what we are. Your song, it's the same frequency our ancestors used to navigate the void between worlds. We had forgotten it existed. It never stopped existing," Lyra replied gently. "It was always there, waiting for you to remember how to listen. That's what humanity discovered in our exile. That the universe itself is conscious, that reality is a song being sung by every particle of matter and energy in existence. We learned to harmonize with it instead of trying to dominate it. The transformation was spreading beyond the Sol system. On the hegemony homeworld, Supreme Chancellor Mordak Ironbane found himself standing in his private chambers, staring out at the night sky with tears streaming down his scaled face. The Black Ship's transmission had reached him not just as sound, an image, but as pure understanding, a direct download of human experience that showed him exactly what his people had destroyed. "My God," he whispered to the empty room, "what have we done? What have we become?" In the council chambers, the revelation was equally profound. Species that had been enemies for millennia found themselves looking at each other with new understanding. The Black Ship's song revealed the fundamental truth that had been hidden. Beneath centuries of political maneuvering and territorial disputes, they were all part of the same cosmic symphony, all notes in the same infinite composition. "The humans are right," declared Archon Veltara Starborn, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. "We have been living a lie. Not just about their extinction, but about the nature of existence itself. We've been treating the galaxy as a resource to be divided when we should have been recognizing it as a consciousness to be joined." Elder Quantum Thess rose from her platform, her ancient form radiating a peace that hadn't been felt in the chamber for millennia. "The Void Speakers have always known this truth, but we thought the younger species weren't ready to understand. Perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps it took humanity's evolution to show us that consciousness can transcend the limitations we place upon it." The Black Ship continued its approach toward Earth, but now it was no longer flying alone. One by one, ships from the hegemony fleet began to turn and follow, not as escorts or guards, but as pilgrims drawn to witness something unprecedented in galactic history. The return of a species that had been transformed by exile into something greater than they had ever been. Prometheus, Lyra said softly. Begin the final phase of the transmission. It's time to show them what we really learned. In the darkness between the stars, the black ship's hull became completely transparent, revealing the truth at its core. There was no traditional crew compartment, no life support systems, no conventional technology at all. Instead, the ship's interior was filled with pure light. Not the light of stars or technology, but the light of consciousness itself made manifest. We are no longer bound by the limitations of flesh. Lyra's voice carried across space with impossible clarity. We have learned to exist as pure thought, pure intention, pure will. The black ship is not just our vessel. It is us. We have become one with our technology, one with our purpose, one with the cosmic song that binds all things together. The revelation sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Humanity had not just survived their attempted extinction, they had evolved beyond the physical limitations that bound every other known species. They had become beings of pure consciousness, capable of manifesting their will directly into reality. This is what you tried to destroy, Lyra continued, her form now visible as a being of living light within the black ship's transparent hull. This is the potential that exists within every species, every consciousness, every dreaming mind in the galaxy. We are not here to rule you or replace you. We are here to show you what you can become. On Earth, Vexithara Prime, the hegemony, colonists stood in their cities and watched the sky as the black ship descended. But instead of feeling fear or anger, they felt something they hadn't experienced in centuries: wonder. The ship's approach was transforming the very atmosphere of the world, restoring frequencies that had been lost when humanity was driven from their homeworld. Citizens of Vexithara Prime, Lyra's voice carried to every ear on the planet. You are not our enemies. You are our students, just as we were once students of species that came before us. The galaxy is not a zero-sum game where one species' growth requires another's diminishment. It is an infinite classroom where consciousness learns to know itself through countless forms and expressions. As the black ship touched down on the surface of humanity's birth world, something unprecedented happened. The hegemony colonists did not flee or resist. Instead, they approached the landing site with curiosity and hope, drawn by the song of possibilities that the human vessel continued to broadcast. "Welcome home," said a voice from the crowd, a young hegemony scientist whose scales had shifted to colors none of her species had displayed in living memory. We have been waiting for you to return. We didn't know we were waiting, but we were. This world has been incomplete without its children." Lyra emerged from the black ship not as a physical being, but as a presence that could be felt by every consciousness in the area. When she spoke, her words seemed to come from the air itself, from the quantum substrate of reality. "We are home," she said simply. "But home is not a place. It is a state of being. And now, for the first time in 3 centuries, the galaxy is ready to be home to all of us." The black ship's mission was complete. The message had been delivered, heard, and understood. Humanity's return was not conquest but communion, not revenge but renaissance. They had shown the galaxy that consciousness could evolve beyond the limitations of flesh and fear, that species could grow beyond the boundaries of territory and resources. In the depths of space, Admiral Kestra Voss watched from the Bridge of the Resurrection as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The Galactic Council was voting to officially recognize humanity's return and to begin the process of territorial restoration. More importantly, they were establishing new protocols for interspecies evolution and consciousness development. "It's done," she said softly to her assembled staff. "The galaxy will never be the same." "Neither will we," replied Chief Engineer Thane Stellaris, his weathered face showing a peace he hadn't felt in decades. "We set out to remind the galaxy that humanity existed. Instead, we've reminded them what existence itself means." The black ship stood silent on the surface of Earth, its hull now completely transparent, revealing the light of human consciousness within. It had carried more than a message across the stars. It had carried the promise of what all consciousness could become when it transcended the limitations of fear, hatred, and territorial thinking. The galaxy was listening. The galaxy was learning. And for the first time in 3 centuries, the galaxy was truly alive with possibility. In the end, humanity's greatest victory was not returning to reclaim what they had lost, but helping the galaxy discover what it had never known it could become. The black ship was indeed not a weapon. It was a message, a song, a promise that consciousness itself could evolve beyond the dreams of any single species. And that message would echo across the stars for all time, reminding every being that extinction was always a choice, and evolution was always possible. The universe sang with new harmonies, and humanity was finally truly home.